Hey, what's up, guys? Coming at you a little bit later tonight. My apologies, just wrapping some things up here on the home front for the evening. So, welcome. My name's Mike, hence the page name, Mike Your Mentor. And the purpose of this page is just to share the things that I've learned and talk about my life and the experiences that I've been through, but ultimately take the wisdom that's been imparted in me from these circumstances and people in my life, particularly other men in my life, and sow those same seeds into other men, because it's true in life. You don't know what you don't know, and I don't care who you are, sooner or later you're going to face a situation, whether it's in your marriage, in your life, in your career, um, just out in the world, where something unexpected is going to happen. And my belief is that unless you prepare yourself for that, uh, if you prepare yourself for that, let me say, you're going to be better off in the long run. You're going to have people to fall back onto. And a lot of times for men, right, when things like that happen, we go off the deep end because, one, we're either lying to ourselves about who we really are and how we really feel. Two, we don't have a good support system in place because we tend to isolate and hold things in. And three, just to piggyback on holding things in, we don't have anybody that we can go to, that we can really share our true feelings and how we think, and just talk about, the goods and the bads, especially the bads though, right? And bring those things to light so that we can unload them and stop carrying them around, because those things, they're a burden on our lives, whether we realize it or not. And the more that I talk with men, the more that I meet one on one with men, the more that I deal with men in workshops, um, I see the truth of this, right? I don't care who it is. They could be the toughest, sternest, hardest person in the room, just postured up like this and refusing to speak. And all it does is take one other guy to be vulnerable about something in their life, maybe in their marriage or something in their past that they went through, and the floodgates, they open up. It's just something powerful, right, about sharing those maybe secrets, but sharing those hard things, right? That guys don't do good very well. That I think they do want to share, right? But they want to be in a safe environment where they're not going to look down upon, where they're going to be encouraged, where they don't have to wear a mask and be fake. And it takes a lot of courage to decide to do something like that, right? To share and to be vulnerable and to take your mask off and to really address who you are on the inside and how you feel about things, and to stop lying to yourself. So, that's pretty much what this page is about, I guess, or one of the things this page is about. But tonight is My Life Monday, and it's pretty simple. I just talk about my life for the past week and maybe something that stood out. Um, this past week, nothing too glamorous, or uh, maybe I just downplay things. I tend to put my head down and just keep going sometimes. A cool thing was is that I reconnected with a brother, a friend that I met maybe a year and a half ago over in England, who reached out to me. He was dealing with some things in his family regarding suicide, and we kind of talked and grew a friendship out of that. And he was away in a different country for a while, and now he's back. So we've kind of resumed talking. It was good to just catch up with him, and meet with him. And that's the cool thing about this page, is it's opened up a lot of opportunities to talk to a lot of guys all across the world that I never otherwise would have talked to and build relationships with. But what I really want to talk to you about tonight is I want to share two stories with you that I heard this week, that have really 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 had me thinking, right? And I think as I tell you the stories and then we talk about it for a little bit afterwards, you'll understand. So try to keep this under 15 minutes or so for you guys tonight since it's so late. So the first story I want to tell you, and I heard these stories from Dr. Tony Evans, who's on the radio a lot. If you don't know, you can look him up and check him out. He's a tremendous speaker, but he shared these two stories, and I just been thinking about them. So the first story was about a lady who lived out in the boondocks, way out in the country, and finally the power company got around to installing power in her area. They ran a line to her house and set her all up, and then they left. And at the power station, about a month later, they noticed that this lady had only used one single unit of power, so they got a little concerned for her and her well-being. So they sent a technician out there. Technician gets out there and knocks on the door, and the lady comes to the door and answers, and the technician says, "Excuse me, ma'am, is everything all right with your power here?" And the lady says, "Yeah, everything's fine." And the technician says, "Okay, that's great. We just got a little worried down at the station because we noticed you've only used one unit of power this whole month." And the lady says, "Oh, that's interesting. I use my electricity every day. Let me show you." And she invites the guy in, the tech in, and she goes, "Yeah, I use my power, my electricity every day. I flip on the light switch and I walk over here and I light my kerosene lamp, and then I go and I turn the electricity off." So that's story number one, right? And I think that we would all agree that that lady probably didn't understand the power that she had access to, right? That she could plug into at any given moment. She was underutilizing what she had at her disposal. So the second story is a story of a guy named, this is a true story, Danny Simpson in Ottawa, Canada, and he actually robbed a bank for $6,000. And he robbed the bank with, I have my notes here, with a 1918 semi-automatic 45 Colt revolver. And if you're not a gun person like I am, that probably doesn't mean anything to you. But yeah, he robbed this bank with a 1918 semi-automatic 45 Colt revolver. I'll say that one more time. He robbed a bank with a gun for $6,000, and that gun was a 1918 semi-automatic 45 Colt revolver. And he got caught by the police, right, for robbing that bank for $6,000. And what he didn't realize is the gun he used to rob the bank was worth $100,000. So, right, what's the point of that story? The same as the point of the first story is if he only knew the power of what was in his hand. And I share those two stories because it gets me thinking, right, like about my own life and about the lives of the guys that I talk with and walk and do life with, right, in sometimes these tough situations. And we all tend to underestimate the power that we have access to, the power that we've been given, the power that resides inside of all of us. And I'm a firm believer that you don't know what you don't know. So I'm constantly exploring and trying to discover things about myself, how I think, how I act, what I'll be like under pressure, and to just really, truly know myself on a deep level so that I can stop lying to myself. Because I think part of the reason that guys lie to themselves about whatever, we fake it till we make it and all these stupid things, is because we really don't know ourselves, or we've never really given ourselves permission to go deeper in our lives, because a lot of it has to do with society and just what guys are taught from a young age, to push things down and to pull ourselves up from our bootstraps and to to get over things, which there's some good to that, and having grit, right, and perseverance. But a lot of times, like a lot of things, that gets distorted and when it gets distorted, it causes confusion and hurt. And for guys, that leads to us being destructive, whether that's physically, emotionally. It plays out in a lot of ways, like addiction to various things, pornography, alcohol, drugs, physical abuse. Um, we get narcissistic and think that we're all that, and belittle and look down on others, and we get really selfish, right? Selfish in our marriage. Well, if she only would have done this, or if she'd only do this, or if I didn't have to do all these things. And hey, man, I'm not preaching to you. I'm preaching to myself as well, because I'm guilty of that, and I've been there before. Um, so my point is, right, I'm always doing things to so that I can know myself further. And I just want to share tonight two of those things uh, that I've used recently. The first one is you can go and Google 16 personalities, and it's a free test. It's Myers-Briggs actually is the test, and it'll give you a lot of insight on how you think, right, and how you are emotionally and intellectually, and it's actually pretty interesting, right? I Whenever I take the test, I tend to think that they're right on with me. I guess an interesting point about me, right, is every time I take these type of tests, like the Myers Briggs, I always score like right, almost in the middle, and I'll deviate a little to the left or to the right. And what I mean is, I'll deviate a little towards being an introvert or towards an extrovert, depending on my mood that day. I can be kind of like a chameleon. I just go with the flow. If the person wants to talk, I talk. Sometimes I just want to be by myself, but I'm almost always exactly right down the middle in those things. The second thing, and I just took this last night and I found it fascinating too, was the Colby report. And this one cost money. I think it was $40, maybe 50. But the Colby assessment lets you or gives you insight into your MO. What does that stand for again? Your method of operation. So basically, how you operate under stress, or how you operate every day in life, like why you make the decisions that you make, and how to better understand those, so you don't put yourself so you don't put yourself in stressful situations, but two, so you know what things to look out for, so uh, you don't accidentally and unknowingly put yourself in situations where you can compromise, your character, your values, your beliefs, whatever the situation is, right? So I'm a firm believer that the more you know yourself in the way that God created you, the better husband you can be, the better father that you can be, the better friend that you can be. So I love, being a lifelong learner, and not just learning about other things, but always learning about myself. So that's it for tonight on My Life Monday. Um, I hope you found this valuable, short and sweet, right? 2 stories, 2 tests. I'd encourage you, if you've never done anything like this, dig into it, and you might be surprised what you learn about yourself, and how it can help you harness, right, the power, going back to those stories, the power that we all have at our disposal. But a lot of times we don't realize it, because we don't know these things, right? We don't know how we operate. We don't know how we think, from an intellectual standpoint or from an emotional standpoint. A lot of times for a lot of guys, right, we're just living in a state of reaction, which is never good. So that's it for tonight. I'll see you guys tomorrow night for Tuesday Thoughts. I love you guys. If anybody needs to talk, or you want to get something off your chest, you just need somebody to listen without judging you, who really cares about your well-being in your life, man, you can always reach out to me. I'll try to be here I'll try to be there for you however I can, um, at that time. So we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good night.